Syndicated source material.
So our next part 4, what's our issue there?
Spider-Man number 35.
Why don't you describe that cover? I understand you're a big fan of this guy's work, Benjamin.
Yeah. Clearly. Apparently this cover is taking place inside of an M.C. Escher painting. That's and apparently I don't remember the last rooftop apartment building that had storm windows in New York City. That's new to me.
I just noticed something about the cover. Why is that building there like 6 times bigger than anything else? It looks like Black Cat is jumping from space. And it looks like Spider-Man's running away.
This cover, man. I have no idea what
she's levitating. She's levitating.
This is, I guarantee it, because I have done this before, so I know it when I see it. The characters were drawn first, and the background was drawn much later.
And it looks like Shriek's like 7 foot tall. Carnage is probably about 9 foot tall. Doppelganger takes up about a quarter of the cover. And Demogoblin takes up. And it looks like the heroes are just so small, and the villains are massive.
Yeah. Well, Tom Lyle is our penciler for the issue. To break down the issue here real quick, Demogoblin ends up meeting up with our villains. Of course, we get a fight at first, and then they convince him. Carnage is like, listen, if you want to go out and wipe sinners off the earth, why don't you just join us? That's what we're doing too. And Demogoblin decides, okay, sounds like a good idea. Now, there's an allusion to the history between Demogoblin and Doppelganger.
In the first encounter that the Doppelganger and Spider-Man had in an earlier issue of Spider-Man, Demogoblin was involved. The Doppelganger appeared to have died by being impaled on a wrought iron fence. Demogoblin picks up his carcass off the fence and disappears, and presumably brought him back to life at some point that I'm not sure I saw when it happened or if it actually happened in any particular comic, but that's really all there is to it. They used to hang out. Doppelganger's an idiot and is easily controlled.
Yeah.
There you go.
He doesn't attack him in this fight. The Doppelganger hangs back and doesn't attack Demogoblin, so you get an idea of there's a history. Plus, I think Demogoblin was tracking Doppelganger initially when we first saw what was going on here. Venom hanging out over at Peter Parker's house, rocking the coolest mullet I've seen in quite a while.
Which he grew between issues.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it just appears.
Apparently, he's got like the Hulk Hogan hair extension kit that he busted out.
That's funny.
Also, like I should mention, and this is where the artistic inconsistencies start kicking in, Mary Jane apparently had time to change her clothes before picking Eddie Brock up off the floor.
She did.
Yes.
I see that.
Well, maybe when she realized it was Eddie, that's why the house coat was open, because she's already thrown it off. Maybe she was ready for some wild and crazy action.
No, that's later in the issue, I think. Is it this issue? We're going to get to that when she just decides to
that she's a whore.
She's just like, screw it, I'm going to go dance. But yeah, I never even noticed that. I didn't even see that. She's totally straight up dressed like business.
She goes from house coat, panties, and bra to a full-fledged matching outfit, hair done, earrings, and makeup.
And he's still in the front. He's still halfway out the front door.
Peter is still checking on him. Maybe as soon as he hit the ground and she realized it was Eddie, she's like, well, fuck this. The guy's going to have a boys' night. I'm going to go out and get drunk and dance with somebody. I want to feel the heat of somebody.
Feel the heat with somebody.
That song's gonna be, when we come to that panel, that song's going to pop into your head, and you're going to be like, you hate. Both of you's going to hate me forever.
Oh, shoot. All right, so Mullet Venom takes a little nap on Pete's couch. Spider-Man takes off, leaving Venom to recoup, and he meets up with another lady, and that is Black Cat. Now, if any of you guys are fans of Spider-Man, have probably heard this name before, Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat. Yeah, there's definitely a love interest, and now they know each other, She knows who Spider-Man is. She knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. That's a very key thing here because he shows up as Spider-Man, and one of the things that a lot of people mention is that she is more in love with Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. So it's all about the mystery and intrigue of the masked hero. Peter Parker shows up, sits down with her over coffee, and tells her his troubles. Her opinion is that Carnage is out there doing this. You might as well get your ass up and take care of it. There's a point where she goes, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So Peter is struggling still from, should I go after this guy or should I stay home and not go out there as Spider-Man? Black Cat's like, I'm putting a suit on right now. I'm heading out. You're more than welcome to come with me. We got to stop this from happening. She actually takes off. So she goes back to Peter Parker's house where there's Eddie Brock, who apparently decides to test his strength by lifting couches. All right, the guy is.
Well, in Russia, that's how like the Russians train for the Olympics or stuff. The famous couch lift.
Eddie Brock, his strength has returned. Black Cat meets up with him, and they decide they're both going after Carnage. One of the other players we talked about earlier, a guy by the name of Cloak, he's pissed. He's still pissed over the death of his partner, Dagger. In his grief-ridden rage, he's decided to go after the Carnage pack. And he shows up at this warehouse where sits Demogoblin, Shriek, Carnage, and Doppelganger. And he's decided it's going to be 4-on-1. He's going to go ahead and lay it down, and he's going to take all of them out. Now, of course, it doesn't fully pan out because Spider-Man, Venom, and Black Cat show up to give Cloak a hand. We got our first meeting between Venom and Carnage in this issue. And there's some serious daddy issues that's going on here. Now, as we get this fight, which me and Ben were talking about, there's a lot of fights that happen in these issues. That's pretty much what we're going to see each issue. Fight, 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 fight. And there's not a whole lot of content. You just get so-and-so fighting this person, so-and-so fighting this person, and then somebody wins, somebody loses, and we move on to the next issue. The villains decide to leave. They're getting out of there. As they leave, before they leave, Demogoblin just throws grenades everywhere in this warehouse and brings this warehouse down. Shriek helps out too by shooting some stuff up into the roof and brings this warehouse down on top of our heroes. Now, some of our heroes get out of there. Cloak gets out of there. Venom is hot on the trail of Carnage, but because of the fire, he's weakened. Black Cat does not escape. At the end of this issue, Peter Parker has to make a choice because as this thing has come down around our heroes, Peter Parker made it out, but he can see Black Cat's hand sticking out of the rubble. So he has to make a choice as to whether he should continue and follow after Carnage or should he help rescue Black Cat. And that's where we leave the end of this issue. Now, there is one big thing that we did not mention here, that it's brought to our attention that Peter Parker's parents are alive.
Okay. David Michelini brought Peter Parker's parents back about a year earlier, a year before this story. It actually, you first see glimpses of them. You don't know who they are exactly, but at the end of the very first story, you see an interlude where they're just coming back into the United States. You don't know who they are yet. A couple of months later, you find out that they are Peter's long-lost parents. Those of us who know Spider-Man, they know the backstory of Peter Parker's parents from Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 5 from sometime in the 60s. They had the backstory that they were government agents, possibly S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, that died in service to their country, a plane crash. You see a little bit more of that even in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. They come back, they have this backstory of having survived the plane crash that we had all thought they died in for years, and actually having been locked away in a Soviet prison for years until the Soviet Union collapsed and they were allowed to leave. As convoluted as that may sound, trust me, David Michelini had a far more convoluted endgame in mind for this story later on at the end of his Amazing Spider-Man run. You mentioned Spider-Man deciding to go after Carnage. This is where a lot of the stuff I've been talking about comes into play. Spider-Man definitely wants to go after Carnage and stop whatever's going on. The problem he keeps running into is aligning himself with Venom has very specific motivations. Venom wants to kill Carnage, and Spider-Man does not want to kill him. And that's the backbone of this entire story, how Spider-Man is dead set on trying to bring down all of these different supervillains without resorting to killing them, because that's always been his thing. Is he doesn't want to kill the bad guys. He wants to find a better way than just resorting to killing. That's going to keep coming up, actually, particularly into Part 5, which is probably a good segue. So there you go.
Okay. Teasley, you just sent me a message there, man. You got to take off, dude?
I want to bounce, take care of some stuff. Have no fear. I'm leaving the last 3 issues. And your guys, Jesse, thanks for having me on. I will catch up with you guys on the flip side and definitely see you guys next week.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you later.
All right. Well, yeah, that was our resident evil ginger, Jason Teasley. I appreciate him coming on here, talking Maximum Carnage with us. I know he would have liked.
I like the term senior ginger correspondent. I think that could work too.
Yeah.
Daily show nod right there.
Definitely. But yeah, this was one of his picks. I know it probably hurts him to have to leave before the end of it. I do know he works his ass off, though, so a lot of times you just can't stay up that late, and I understand that. So we're getting into issue 5 here, or excuse me, part 5, calling it issue, Spectacular Spider-Man 201 to Kill the Cat. And here, who do we got in our, we have J.M. DeMatteis and Sal Buscema. I think we've had a different artist each part, haven't we? We haven't come across any of the same art.
Each particular Spider-Man book is written and drawn by the creative team who had been regularly making that title at the time. So Michelini and Bagley had been on Amazing Spider-Man for a long time. J.M. DeMatteis and Sal Buscema had been on Spectacular Spider-Man for a long time. I had been reading both, and like I said, J.M. DeMatteis is probably my favorite Spider-Man writer of all time. I can't say enough good things about it. His Spider-Man comics, even though as a kid, set a really high bar for me as far as what I consider to be a good Spider-Man story. So he did his damnedest to elevate some otherwise crappy material in Maximum Carnage. He did his best. You'll see that in this part. He tries to give some characters some emotional weight and starts bringing in differing ideologies.
All right. Spider-Man had a choice to make. Does he go after Carnage, or does he rescue his good friend, Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, laying in the rubble? He decides to help her out. The bad part is she says, what the hell are you doing? You should have... Why didn't you go after him? We've got to stop what's going on. We've got to stop Carnage. You waste your time saving me while this guy goes out and kills another 50 people. You got to get it figured out, Spider-Man. You should have left me. You should have left me there. Spider-Man, Peter Parker's got to be like, what the hell? He's taken aback by the fact that she is going to give him a hard time because he just saved her life. As Eddie Brock swings off into the distance after enjoying the fact that she just ran Spider-Man down right in front of him, as he swings off into the distance, he asks Black Cat if she's coming along, and she just gives this look back at Spider-Man, who's still in awe as to what just happened, and she takes off and says, I'm right behind you, and leaves Spider-Man there on the pier as this warehouse burns. Spider-Man is standing there, and then all of a sudden his ribs start hurting again.
What's the count so far?
I think we're at 3 or 4. We pan back to our villains who are, again, we've got a quartet. We got the Doppelganger, we got Shriek, we got Carnage, we got Demogoblin, and we get a little bit more infighting amongst the villains. I think this is the issue where Carnage gets pissed, and how you talking about ideologies. Demogoblin mentions plan, and Carnage just goes off. I think it's this issue, or maybe it's the next one. They're about to get into it. He's mad at him for talking about having a purpose, and it really solidifies the fact that Carnage is chaos incarnate. He's just out to kill, and he doesn't give a crap. He's just going to kill if he wants to kill. Shriek gets in there and calms things down and say, "Hey, listen, let's focus on the killing and get back to business. There's no reason to fight." Now, there's the the part here in regards to Pete, who's made his way to Aunt May's, and he's still nursing his ribs. He's obviously still confused as to what just happened with Black Cat. So he decided to head to a familiar place and talk to his aunt about what's going on. At the same house resides Mary and Richard, Peter's parents.
Peter, because it's a whole Spider-Man thing, and at this point Aunt May doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man, so he's trying to explain what his problem is without outright saying what his problem is. And she just says, and he's trying to think. He's got all of this stuff going on, and clearly is talking about all the stuff with Carnage and having to deal with all the stuff that's going on with Carnage, Venom, and all of this gray morality. And he's trying to think, what would my Uncle Ben do? And she's just assuring him, your uncle always did the right thing. He always knew right from wrong, and you're enough like him, and he raised you well enough that whatever it is bothering you, whatever issues that you have, you'll figure it out, and you'll always do the right thing just like your uncle did. Peter's father overhears this and pulls him aside and talks to him about his point of view on the whole thing, in so much as that what he knows about it. And basically saying that your uncle was one of the greatest men that I ever knew. He was a kind-hearted guy, but he still ended up shot down like a dog in his own home by some random act of violence. And he was saying it's a hard, terrible world out there, and I know firsthand, and this is after we know the backstory that we've been told about Peter's parents surviving the Soviet prison. He's saying we need to use whatever means necessary to take down evil and handle the dark side of life and whatever demons are haunting you or coming after you, because if you don't, they'll swallow you up. You got to fight fire with fire. You got to use whatever means possible to stop the madness before it swallows you up. So that's, once again, when you get something like this in the hands of a writer like J.M. DeMatteis, he at least gives you a little bit of food for thought. It's a little heavy-handed, but it's still handled well enough that it's something interesting to think about in the context of all of these fantastical, superpowered creatures and these monsters doing battle with each other. It gives you a reason to care. It's supposed to. It gives you a reason it gives you stakes. So there's actually stakes to what's going on. And it's almost like there's a battle going on to stop Carnage and all of his people, but there's also a battle going on for Peter's soul as far as what he's willing to do to stop this, and is he willing to compromise everything that he really became Spider-Man for.
Okay, we're at issue 5 here, and I know we ain't done yet with talking about it, but would you say this is the strongest issue so far of this whole crossover?
Writing-wise, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I agree with you. I think this is probably one of the strongest written, and it may be of the 7. I haven't got past part 7 yet, but so far I really enjoyed this one. Okay, so there's our conflict. We got Pete trying to figure out what he needs to do next, and he kind of leaves his dad and he leaves Aunt May's. Now, as our heroes gather together to figure out their next move, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is not part of it, but we have Cloak, Venom, and Black Cat trying to find the trail of Cletus, Cassidy, Carnage, try and stop them. The villains continue their killing spree throughout New York, and there is an introduction to a new villain. Part 5, we've got a new villain, scary-looking dude who floats up out of the sewers. A villain by the name of Carrion. I recognize his power set, and I think I may have seen some issues with this guy, but you got any backstory on this dude for us?
He started out as one of Peter Parker's college classmates, a rival in his mind by the name of Malcolm McBride. He creates the serum that he doesn't realize it at the time until it's too late, but it actually turns out to be a degenerative virus that bonds with him and gives him the abilities that he has. Carrion's main abilities are to decay living tissue and to kill people by touching them and having them waste away to nothing. How that's able to make him float, I have no idea, but comic books.
That's the way it is. Carrion recognizes, he just sees all this death, and he understands that these are the villains that we've been following so far because of all this. He just quietly comes up out of the sewers and is behind them as they go upon their murderous rampage. As Peter Parker's Spider-Man is swinging through the air, he encounters a mob mentality that's taken over New York. With this killing spree going on, people just start losing their minds. At first, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Is there some power behind this, or is this just people going nuts? As far as I know, it's people going nuts. Now, whether that comes up later, that there's something behind it, I don't know. But he comes across this scene where there's like 20 or 30 people in the middle of the street, and it's like a riot. As this killing is going on, people are starting to lose control of themselves. Peter swings down and helps a guy who's about to get killed by a bunch of people. As he rescues them, all 20 of these people hop on to Spider-Man, and they start trying to beat the crap out of him. Parker gets pissed off. And that final page, I'll let you read the final bubble there. Spider-Man shaking his fists at the heavens as he's so upset. What is it that Spider-Man said?
He says furiously, "From this moment on, you'll get no mercy from Spider-Man." And let me tell you something about this. I remember reading this when this issue first came out. This was an awesome cliffhanger because it shows that everything was well built up. DeMatteis does a good job throughout the entire issue of talking about what does it take, like how far can you push a human being before they reach the breaking point? Do you have to fight madness with more madness? Do you have to fight violence with more violence? And it all ends with Spider-Man vowing he's going to do whatever it takes to keep the city from going down in flames. This is an excellent cliffhanger to a pretty well-written issue. This is not followed up on at all.
That's what I thought. When I remember reading this issue, I'm like, oh man, the gloves are off. Spider-Man is going to go take care of business.
The first few panels of the first time we see Peter in part 6, he's already backpedaling. He's already got a lot of regret for all of the stuff that he's doing. He's back at his apartment. He tapes his ribs up again. He jumps back out the window and he goes looking for Carnage. And nothing changed from one issue to the other, and this is where the inconsistencies, and once again, it's back to Web of Spider-Man, and it's back to Terry Kavanagh writing the story. And nothing changed. We get a really good turning point in this story where Spider-Man finally decides no more. I'm going to do whatever I have to do, and nothing. And that pissed me off really badly.
What I'm expecting to happen is Peter Parker is going to be right on Carnage's ass the next issue, and like it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. Issue 6 was going to be the end. And that's, or if maybe that, issue 7. We've got another 8 parts, folks. It's amazing to me how they just dropped them.
Make sure to check us out tomorrow as Maximum Carnage continues, right here on the Source Material Comics Podcast.